it's been about 10, 12 days. Somewhere in there. All right. I know Miss Dahl had talked to you guys just about like all the references that this book talks about, like other books. So like, who remembers one book that this book has mentioned so far? This book talked about secret specifically. Do you remember? It's talked about, I know for certain, it's talked about one book. One other book. No? No? It was in here. She referred to this book. Does anybody remember what book she referred to? She didn't refer to Cigarette Special.
Has it been a book that we've read?
It hasn't been a book. I don't think that you guys have read it so far, but Fern in here said something about her name and where it came from. Charlotte's Web. So she referred to Charlotte's Web. And apparently there are a ton of other books that Fern's going to refer to. So, as for now, let's see here. I'm going to pass this out. You guys need 4. Whenever we're reading, I want you guys to just kind of be looking at this while we're reading. Don't make it a distraction. Who remembers what we left off talking about? Okay. Sit, Molly.
It's when the
Nurse Curtin. Thank you, PJ.
Nurse Curtin showed up at Bernie's house and this Mr. Bone and said that he was his father and she switched the babies.
Remember that now. It's all coming back to me. Anybody have you have something to add to that? What?
There was a boy under the light on the
Anything more specific about it? It's not really bringing back anything, Bella? So, remember, strange guy comes to your house, you're nothing like your family, and this guy is out there with this boy and saying, hey, you're my kid, and this kid that I'm with is actually these parents' kid. Think about that, alright? Make some predictions. What we've gone over, what's going to happen, okay? Think about if we're going to go with them, what's going to happen? Remember, we have all the shape-shifting things that are coming into play. So see if you can put that into your prediction right now. So go ahead and think about this story. What Fern's going through, what could happen. Don't just come up with randomness either. Use what the text is kind of saying so far. Predictions. Only 2? We all have this thing, please.
Oh.
Thank you very much. All right, PJ, in a complete sentence, what do you predict is going to happen? Predict. Okay, so PJ predicts that Miss Dredger will agree to switching the children back. All right, anybody agree or disagree? All right, so Raleigh in that statement.
I agree because Fern didn't really like them, so that would
So she agrees with PJ because Fern is nothing like the Dredger, so Miss Dredger will be okay with trading the kids. All right, Kevin.
I agree with PJ Molly because
No, you're okay. So, you agree, because Miss Dredger,
Didn't know that things were switched. And she will give Fern to Mr. Bo.
so she'll agree to it because she didn't know that the babies were switched, and now she's finding out that they were. So maybe she is. Okay. Does anybody have a disagree? Bria?
I disagree with Ollie, Kevin, and PJ because I don't think she would let him in and switch the children because when the boy tried to like say, I want to go home and tried to like walk up to the door, she wouldn't.
She wouldn't let the son in. All right, so let's stop there with predictions and let's see what happens. All right, so Mrs. Dredger starts off. She says, I have a dinner party with guests, Mrs. Dredger said. She called her husband. Dear, dear. She scurried to the kitchen. The guests will want refills, drinks. Mr. Dredger appeared in the hall. The beiges, all three of them, scurried in after him in a big beige blur. Mr. Dredger looked at Fern. The man, the woman, the gangly boy, all dripping in the open doorway. He said, Oh my. Mrs. Dredger screamed out from the kitchen. He's ours! That's what they say, not Fern! Fern had never heard her like this. The pinch in her voice had risen to a shrill whistle, like that of Fern's swim coach, Mrs. Lillypole. From the entranceway, Fern could see Mrs. Dredger race around the kitchen. She watched her tear open the refrigerator door, looking for drinks, and then slam it. The magnets collected there, all 226 of them, flew off and scattered across the floor. Mary Curtin and the Bone and Howard inched into the hallway. They stood there awkwardly, while Mrs. Dredger scrambled to pick up a handful of magnets and rearrange them on the fridge. There was an uncomfortable silence. Mary Curtin filled it. The Bone is such a good father, she said to Fern warmly. Howard and the Bone have been together for a long time, ever since the Bone got out of jail. Mrs. Dredger tottered back to the entranceway. Jail? She gasped. The Bone made a correction. I prefer not to say jail. I prefer to say that I was recharging my batteries. I was taking a rest. The Bone sighed, frustrated, as if Howard had said something that belonged to a long, wearisome battle. Yes, Mr. and Mrs. Dredger said to Howard. Surely, pick them up. That would be lovely. And they both looked at Howard with such love and affection that Fern thought poor Howard was going to melt. So, anybody's predictions that they might come true? Something, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking that Mr. and Mrs. Dredger are gonna let Fern go because she doesn't do all the stuff that Howard's probably gonna do.
Does anybody agree with, I believe it was Sit Lolly, PJ, and Kevin's prediction that they'll make the trade? Okay, if you agree, from what we just read, tell me why you agree with them now, Evelyn.
I agree with that because it just said that Mrs. Dredger was starting to love the boy.
They were showing him love and affection. Okay. Anybody else have any other evidence that PJ, Sit Lolly, and Kevin's prediction will?